It's like, how do you even begin to raise kids who are actually, good with money? Especially these days, right? It feels like money's kind of everywhere, but nobody really understands, like, what it even is anymore.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? You want to give them a solid foundation, but the world's throwing all this crazy financial stuff at them constantly.
Exactly. So that's why we're doing this deep dive, unearthing, like, the real strategies for raising kids who not only get money, but are actually generous with it, responsible.
Love it. And we've got some really interesting stuff to dig into. We're looking at bringing up money-smart kids. And let me tell you, this ain't your grandma's allowance and chores lecture, you know?
Oh, okay. So what's so different about this one?
Well, one of the authors, Adam Koo, this guy's a self-made millionaire. And get this, he actually gives his kids less allowance than their classmates.
Wait, really? Less?
Yeah.
That's kind of wild, isn't it?
Right. Goes against everything we think we know, right?
Yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
what's the logic there?
Well, that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. But maybe even more surprising, we're going to start with something you might not expect. Gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay, I mean, I get it. Teaching kids to say please and thank you. But how does that actually translate into, being smart with money?
It's way deeper than just manners, right? This book dives into, like, the psychology of happiness. Specifically, this guy, Martin Seligman, he talks about the 3 types of lives.
Okay, interesting. Haven't heard of those.
He says, a truly meaningful life, it's all about using your strengths for something bigger than yourself. So now think about how that connects to generosity.
Okay, yeah.
A kid who really gets the value of what they have, they're way more likely to share it, right?
Yeah.
Use what they have to make a difference. It's like planting those seeds for them to become like mini philanthropists, you know?
Wow, I hadn't even thought about it that way.
Right.
It's not just about, like, being thankful for stuff, but actually how that thankfulness can spread outward. So how do we actually do that? Cultivate that? I mean,
Right, good question. Well, the book's got some pretty specific strategies. One that really resonated with me was like just weaving gratitude into your everyday conversations.
okay, so, like, what does that look like in practice?
Imagine this, right? Instead of everyone complaining about what's missing at dinner, you take a minute to appreciate, I don't know, the food, the fact that you're all together, you know?
Ah, those little moments, right. The
Well,
stuff we take for granted.
totally. It's about shifting the focus.
Yeah, because I'm definitely guilty of, complaining at dinner sometimes.
Yeah.
But the book also mentions chores, right? Not just as, like, a way to get stuff done,
Exactly.
but as a tool to teach gratitude.
When kids actually understand like how much effort goes into those everyday things, they start to appreciate what they have so much more,
Yeah,
right?
and it's not about making them little servants or anything,
No, not at all.
but more about understanding that things don't just magically happen.
Right. It takes work. Someone's got to do it.
So, like, helping with laundry, cooking, those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. Even just letting them help, you know? And there's even some more kind of unconventional things they suggest, like having your kids actually write down positive qualities about someone they dislike.
Ooh, okay, that's tough.
Yeah, right. But it's all about flexing those gratitude muscles, finding the good, even in those tricky situations.
I like that. It's like training their brain to look for the positive no matter what.
Exactly. And speaking of positive, the book also talks about using what they call parent coupons as rewards.
Parent coupons. Okay, that sounds interesting. What are those?
So instead of giving them, I don't know, like a toy or something, you offer coupons for experiences, like maybe a special outing, extra bedtime stories, you know.
Ah, so it's about creating memories instead of just more stuff.
Exactly. And it takes the focus off, always wanting the next thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm really digging these gratitude strategies. But what about the whole allowance thing? Like, is that still a good idea? I mean, is a regular allowance the best way to teach kids about money?
Ugh, the age-old question, right. And here's the thing. The book actually presents 2 totally different viewpoints,
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
both with some pretty valid arguments.
All right. Well, let's break them down. What's the first one?
So the first is what most people think of, right? The fixed allowance.
Yeah.
Kids get a set amount every week, every month, whatever you decide, and they learn to divide it up, spending, saving, sharing, all that good stuff.
Seems pretty standard. Does the book, like, highlight any specific benefits to that approach?
Yeah, it really emphasizes teaching kids to budget, making choices within their means. There's this great anecdote, actually, about Adam Koo's daughter. She spent her entire allowance on candy, and then she had no money for lunch.
Oh, no. Poor thing. Did she learn her lesson?
Oh, yeah, I think so. But it highlights how important it is to let them experience those consequences, even if it means a rumbling tummy for a bit.
Yeah, sometimes those are the best lessons, right? Okay, so what's the other side of this allowance debate?
Well, the book also explores what they call the on-demand allowance.
On demand. Okay, so like they got to ask every time.
Yep. The idea is that it forces them to think more carefully about what they're spending on, because it's not just a free handout every week, you know?
So they have to like justify their needs.
Exactly. Makes them understand the value of each dollar.
That's pretty interesting, actually. So does the book like recommend one over the other?
Nope, not really. It's more about, you got to figure out what works for your family and how mature your kid is, right?
Makes sense. There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
But speaking of money, how do we even begin to explain investing to kids? It seems so complicated.
Well, that's where the book gets super creative. They introduce this idea of a dollar bill as a money seed.
A money seed. Okay, I like that.
Think about it. You can either spend that dollar and poof, it's gone. Or you can plant it by investing it. And it has the potential to like grow into more money.
That's such a good visual. It makes investing seem less intimidating and more like, I don't know, nurturing something.
Right. And the book gives some real world examples to make it even clearer.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So they use this fictional company called Mikey Sports Shoes.
Mikey's Sports Shoes. All right, tell me more.
Imagine Mikey's company starts making more shoes, right? Maybe they hire more people, get better technology, whatever. If people really want to buy those shoes, the company becomes more valuable, right?
Yeah, full.
So the more successful Mikey's company is, the more valuable that money seed becomes.
Ah, okay, so it's like you're betting on Mikey's success.
Kind of, yeah. And that's where stocks come in. Owning a stock means you own a tiny little piece of that company.
Okay.
And when the company makes money, profits, you might get something called dividends. It's like a bonus.
So it's not just about, your money sitting in a savings account. It's about actually being part of something and potentially sharing in its success.
Exactly. And then there's bonds, which can be a little trickier.
Yeah, those always confuse me.
Think of bonds like loans. It's like you lend money to Mikey or even to the government.
Yeah.
And you get paid a little extra back over time. Usually it's considered safer than stocks, but it might not grow as much.
So stocks are more of a, what? A gamble, but with bigger potential rewards.
You could say that, yeah. And bonds are more about that slow and steady growth.
Okay, I think I'm getting it.
Uh,
But the book also emphasized, like, investing is a long game, right?
Absolutely. It's about planting those money seeds and then, like, being patient, letting them grow.
Which is tough in a world where everyone wants everything right now.
Tell me about it. Instant gratification everywhere.
So we got to teach them that delaying gratification, it's a good thing.
Yep. Not just with spending, but with investing, too.
Okay, I'm feeling way more confident about this whole investing thing. But let's switch gears for a sec. What about the big, kind of scary topic of inheritance? Like, is it always a good idea to leave kids a ton of money?
Ah, great question. And the book actually dives into some of the potential downsides of giving young people too much wealth too soon.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that could be problematic.
Right. Like, imagine a 21-year-old suddenly inheriting millions of dollars. Are they really going to know what to do with all that?
Probably not. I mean, they haven't had the life experience to handle that kind of responsibility.
Exactly. And the book gets real about some of the dangers. Like, suddenly having all that money can attract some shady characters,
Oh, yeah.
making them vulnerable to being taken advantage of.
That's scary. It's like they become a target overnight.
And on a deeper level, easy access to all that wealth can actually make them less ambitious. Like, if you don't have to work for anything, why bother, right?
It's like that whole shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations thing.
Exactly.
The first generation builds it, the second enjoys it, and then the third blows it all because they never learned the value of hard work.
You got it. So what's the solution?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Well, the book suggests 2 main things. First, delaying those big payouts.
Okay, so like not just giving it all to them at once.
Right. You can use things like trusts, which let you control when and how they get the money.
So it's more of a safety net, not a free-for-all.
That's the idea. And the second thing is, you got to have those open and honest conversations.
About money.
Yeah, those are always tough.
I know, but they're so important. You don't have to give them all the details, but you can start instilling those values of responsibility, teaching them to think long-term,
This is like inheriting money isn't just about instant gratification. It's about carrying on a legacy.
Exactly. And that's what we're aiming for,
Yeah.
right? Raising kids who are thoughtful and responsible with money.
Okay, well, this has been eye-opening. We've covered so much. From gratitude and allowances to investing and even inheritance.
They've barely scratched the surface, really.
I know. But I'm already seeing a much bigger picture. of how to raise kids who are not only financially responsible, but who have a healthy relationship with money, period.
And that's what it's all about. We're just getting started, though. In the next part, we're going to dive into even more practical strategies from the book, like creative ways to teach kids about earning money and making smart spending choices, all that good stuff.
Can't wait. This is going to be awesome.
So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into bringing up money-smart kids. We've been talking about, gratitude, allowances, all that foundational stuff. But now I want to get practical. How do we actually teach these little humans to earn money?
Even if you're in a position to comfortably provide for your kids, encouraging them to work, even from a young age, it's just so valuable.
I can definitely see that. I mean, it's one thing to understand money in like a theoretical sense, but actually earning it yourself, it gives it a whole new meaning. So where do we even start? Like, what can kids realistically do to earn money?
Well, the book suggests a whole bunch of different options, and it kind of depends on, their age and what they're into. For the younger ones, maybe it's just some extra help around the house, stuff that goes above and beyond their usual chores.
So not just tidying their room, but maybe like washing the car,
Yeah.
helping with yard work.
Exactly. And as they get older, they can start thinking about providing services for neighbors. Pet sitting, dog walking, maybe some basic yard maintenance.
It's like, it's not just about the money itself. It's about building that sense of responsibility, connecting with their community, almost like early entrepreneurship.
That's a great point. And the book also talks about exploring online opportunities. Maybe they sell crafts on Etsy or offer online tutoring to younger kids. There's a whole world of possibilities out there these days.
I'm telling you, this is blowing my mind. I had no idea there were so many options. But are there, like, any legal things we need to be aware of, especially with kids working?
Oh, for sure. The book really stresses understanding child labor laws in your area. There's usually age restrictions, limits on the type of work they can do, the hours, all that stuff.
Good reminder, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be smart about this, not just throwing them into the workforce.
Yeah.
But beyond the practicalities, I'm curious about the deeper benefits. What does having kids earn their own money actually teach them?
It goes way beyond just, adding a few dollars to their piggy bank. It's about developing a strong work ethic, understanding that connection between effort and reward. That real-world experience is invaluable.
It's almost like giving them a head start in navigating the adult world, right?
Yeah.
Where hard work actually translates into tangible results.
Exactly. It sets them up for success.
And speaking of the adult world, let's go back to this investing thing. How do we actually help our kids, plant those money seeds and watch them grow?
Well, the book does a great job of breaking down stocks and bonds, but in a way that kids can actually understand.
Okay, yeah, because I remember us talking about Mikey's sports shoes earlier. How does that tie into teaching kids about stocks?
The key is choosing companies that your kids already get, that they're excited about. Maybe they love a certain brand of sneakers or they're obsessed with a video game. Instead of just spending their money on those things, imagine if they actually owned a piece of the company.
Whoa, okay, that's a powerful shift in thinking.
Yeah.
It's like turning consumption into ownership, almost.
Right. And if the company does well, their money seed grows in value.
So they're literally invested in its success.
Exactly. And they might even get those dividends we talked about, like little bonuses from the company.
That makes it so much more engaging. Okay, I think stocks are making sense now. But bonds, I got to admit, those still kind of feel abstract to me.
Think of bonds like loans. It's like lending money to a company or even to the government and getting paid a little extra back over time. It's generally considered safer than stocks, but the potential for growth is usually lower.
So stocks are a bit more of a gamble with bigger potential rewards, while bonds are more about that steady growth.
That's a good summary.
Okay, cool. But I think one of the most important things the book emphasizes is that investing is a long-term game.
Right, absolutely. You got to be patient and let those money seeds do their thing.
Which is, tough to teach in a world of instant gratification.
It's all about delaying gratification.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't forget about diversification, spreading those money seeds around, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Smart move. Okay, we've talked about earn and investing. Now, what about the flip side? How do we teach these kids to be, like, mindful spenders?
This is where it gets really practical. One of the biggest things is helping them differentiate between needs and wants.
Oh, yeah, we touched on that earlier.
But it's worth repeating. Needs are the essentials, right? Food, shelter, clothes, wants are everything else.
And teaching them to prioritize needs and be mindful of wants, that's a lifelong skill.
It really is. The book also suggests encouraging delayed gratification. Instead of buying something on impulse, have them wait a few days, even a week.
Ah, that cooling off period.
Exactly. It can really help avoid buyer's remorse.
It's making them think twice before they spend, really considering the value.
And there's a few other practical tips, too, like comparison shopping.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Teach them how to find the best deals, online, in stores, wherever. It's about being a savvy consumer.
And you can save so much money just by doing a little research. It's amazing.
Right. Every penny counts. And here's one you might not expect. Teach them to negotiate.
Negotiate. Like with their friends.
Maybe. Or at a garage sale, you know. It's about empowering them to take control of their spending, not just accepting the price tag.
It's like a real-life economics lesson. Brilliant.
Wow.
So we've covered earning, investing, spending wisely. But there's got to be one more piece to this puzzle, right?
You're absolutely right. And it might be the most important lesson of all. Teaching kids about the power of giving.
Ah, yes. Sharing their wealth, making a positive impact. But how do we instill that sense of generosity?
Well, it all starts with leading by example, right?
And of course, they learn by watching us. If they see us donating to causes we care about, they're more likely to do the same.
Exactly. And you can involve them in the process, too. Maybe take them to volunteer at a local charity. Or let them choose a cause they're passionate about and donate some of their allowance.
Giving them that ownership, that makes it so much more meaningful. It's not just about, here's some money, go donate it. It's about letting them make those choices, feel connected to the impact.
And remember, giving doesn't always have to be about money. It can be about donating time, talents, even gently used items.
That's a great point. It's about expanding their understanding of what it means to give back.
And here's something really cool. The book actually highlights how giving isn't just about helping others. It can actually enrich our own lives. Studies show that people who regularly give are happier and healthier.
Wow, really? So giving is good for the soul and the body.
It's a win-win. And that wraps up part 2 of our deep dive.
It's been a whirlwind of practical advice. Earning, investing, spending wisely, giving generously. I feel like we've got a whole toolkit now for raising financially savvy kids.
But there's always a catch, right? Real life doesn't always go according to plan.
Oh, tell me about it.
So in part 3, we're going to tackle the real-world challenges parents face. Sibling rivalry, peer pressure, setting realistic expectations, all that messy stuff.
Oh, I can already feel the tension rising. But I'm also feeling equipped with, like, a whole new perspective. Listeners, you got to join us for part 3. Where we dive into the messy, but ultimately rewarding reality of raising money-smart kids. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into bringing up money-smart kids. We've covered a ton of ground, right? Gratitude, allowances, investing. But we got to be real. Things don't always go perfectly. Real life throws us curveballs, especially when it comes to kids and money.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like textbook advice only gets you so far. Then you've got sibling rivalry, peer pressure, you name it. It's when those strategies meet the real world, that's where things get interesting.
Yeah, those were some of the toughest parts of growing up for me, honestly, is like the constant comparisons with my siblings, the whole it's not fair thing. And throw money into the mix, forget about it.
The book actually talks about that, how sometimes fairness doesn't actually mean equality, especially with kids.
Okay, that's an interesting point.
Like every kid has different needs, right? And it's about making sure each kid feels valued, even if that looks different in terms of, financial support.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. So it's not about giving every kid the exact same amount of money, but about making sure their individual needs are met, even if one kid needs expensive braces and another just needs new shoes.
Exactly. And the book suggests actually getting the kids involved in those decisions.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like, have a family meeting, talk about the upcoming expenses.
Let everyone voice their needs and their wants.
And explain, the family's limits.
That's awesome. It teaches them that money isn't just this infinite resource.
It's about making choices, prioritizing within a budget.
Love it.
Oh.
It's also a great way to, preempt those random requests, the ones that totally throw off your budget.
Oh, yeah, those can be killers. Speaking of things that can derail our best intentions, what about peer pressure? How do we even begin to prepare our kids for that? When all their friends are buying the latest gadgets and trendy clothes.
Ugh, don't even get me started. It's
Oh.
a nightmare out there, especially with social media, right? Everyone's showing off their stuff constantly.
It's tough, even for adults.
Right. So how do we teach our kids to, resist that urge to keep up with the Joneses?
The book really emphasizes those open conversations about money, helping them understand that true value, it's in experiences, relationships. It's not about the stuff.
Yeah, but how do we make that message stick
Yeah.
when they're bombarded with all these messages telling them to buy, buy, buy?
One practical tip is, when they're going out with friends, give them a set amount of spending money. That way, they learn to make choices within that limit.
It's like setting those boundaries early on.
Right. Gives them those training wheels for responsible spending.
And it takes the pressure off us to be the bad guys all the time, saying no.
Exactly. Let them make those choices. Experience the natural consequences.
Sometimes they got to learn the hard way, right?
Speaking of boundaries, what about setting realistic expectations for our kids? We want them to be ambitious, but we also got to prepare them for the real world, you know?
That's huge, yeah. We don't want to set them up for disappointment or make them feel like they're failures if they don't achieve some crazy level of financial success.
The book suggests being really open and honest about our own financial journeys. You don't have to share every detail, but talking about our experiences with earning, saving, even our mistakes.
That's so smart. It makes all this stuff way more relatable.
They need to see that even adults mess up sometimes. It's all part of the process.
Normalizes the ups and downs of financial life.
And it keeps that conversation about money going, which is so important as they get older.
It's not a one-time lecture, it's an ongoing dialogue.
Exactly. And I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive.
I know, it's flown by. We've covered so much ground. From gratitude to investing and everything in between.
And we've tackled those real-life scenarios that can make the stuff feel so tricky.
But now I feel like, I don't know, I've got a whole new toolkit for raising kids who are not only financially responsible, but who genuinely understand money.
That's the goal.
So what's the one thing that really stood out to you from all this?
I think it's the importance of starting early. Making it a conversation, not a lecture.
It's not about overwhelming them with complicated stuff, right?
No, it's about planting those seeds, building their financial literacy over time.
And this book has given us so many great ways to do that.
It really has.
So listeners, as you go out and, start putting all this into practice,
Remember, be patient, be open, and most importantly, have fun with it.
it's about empowering our kids to thrive in a world where, let's face it, money matters.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive and that you're feeling inspired to raise a whole new generation of money-smart kids.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those money seeds growing.